Snipers do not belong in video games. Now, I know that's a hot take, and it sounds like the take somebody would have after just having been absolutely destroyed by a Widowmaker in Overwatch. And yes, that's true, but hear me out on this one, okay? I have irrefutable proof, okay? And by that I mean opinion, that snipers don't belong in video games. So let's start out by talking about, what do I mean sniper? If you look at games like Overwatch 2 and Team Fortress 2, where there are specific classes that are snipers, that's all they do. The sniper in TF2 and Widowmaker in Overwatch. And then you look at games like CSGO with the AWP hand, games like Halo with their like limited use sniper rifles. You'll see that there's quite a few ways that snipers are implemented in all of these games. And the one I have a particular problem with is TF2, Overwatch 2, and CSGO's implementation of the sniper rifle. Now, I'm not saying that sniper rifles are strictly OP. In the right hands, for sure, yeah, they are overpowered. And that's the problem. If you are not good with a sniper rifle, let's say you are a fresh Widowmaker in a game of Overwatch 2, you aren't having much fun because you are missing most of your shots and you are dying. Your team isn't having much fun because they basically are playing a 4v5 because one of their DPS isn't doing anything. And the enemy team doesn't really care. I guess they probably like that they're getting a free win because you're playing Widowmaker, but they don't really give a shit. So if you are bad, there is no one who is happy with you being bad. But let's see if you're good. If you are good at sniper, then you're having a good time because you are killing literally everyone from across the map with basically zero counterplay. Your team is kind of bored because they're not really doing much. They don't have to do much because a Widowmaker who can hit 80% of their shots is just playing the game for them. They barely have to play. And the enemy team, every single one of them, is having an incredibly frustrating experience. Generally bad. So there's one player who's having a good time, 4 other players that maybe are having a good time because they're winning, and 5 players who are having a terrible time. Just a very not fun, frustrating time. So whether or not you are good or bad at sniper, there are way more people having a bad time when you play sniper than there are people having a good time. And that's not even the end of it. Sniping in video games limits game design space. Now what I mean by this is if you have a sniper like the TF2 sniper or the Widowmaker sniper in a video game, you have to constantly be aware about that when you're making any map in the game. And only that one character. You kind of have to be aware that there's not like too many like choke points, but that's because all characters are pretty good at choke points and it can be hard to push in through a choke point. It's not designed against any one particular character, but sightlines kind of are. If you look at a map like Orange, which is just a big old open flat map, the reason people love playing it so much is because it's just a big old open flat map. But again, snipers kind of ruin it. So that's why Crit Orange is such a big thing in TF2, because it kind of nullifies the advantage that the sniper has, the range. If you have crits on, any class can kill each other from across the map, and it kind of evens the playing field a little bit, and just adds a little bit of silliness and makes it generally more enjoyable for everyone. Now, all maps could be much more open and interesting if every map didn't have to be limited by not having sightlines that are too good for sniper characters. There should never be a singular character in a video game that limits so much design space. It doesn't make sense. Unless that character is what 90% of people play, which isn't true either. I guarantee you, Overwatch 2 would be a better game without Widowmaker. TF2 would be a much, much better game without Sniper. I think TF2 is probably the most egregious example of this. Sniper in TF2 is ridiculously beyond broken and the most frustrating thing to encounter. And games like CSGO, while not quite at the level of TF2 or Overwatch in this regard, it just sucks to be insta-killed from any range with the AWP. It means that you now need to change your entire gameplay, your entire strategy, because one guy bought this one weapon. There is no other weapons in the game that do that. You don't have to drastically change your strategy if somebody buys a shotgun. You don't have to drastically change the way that you are playing out a round if somebody has an AK, because it's normal, it's expected, and it's not so wildly different. So one shot from any distance. And it's the same when it comes to playing against a good Widowmaker or a good sniper. You have to change how you play the game. Your entire team has to change how you play the game. Because I know there's going to be people who say, oh, but there's counterplay to snipers. Oh, just don't walk into the sightlines. Oh, just play a sneaky character that can get behind them and kill them. And yes, you're right. That is counterplay to it. But is that counterplay to any other character? Why should a singular character have such a drastic different need for counterplay? So if you're facing a good Widowmaker, somebody has to try and counter them. You have to devote one, sometimes two people to just counter that one person because of how much influence and how much just power they have in the game. And it's the same for TF2. If you are playing against a very good sniper, you now have to be much more cautious about where you go. And the last point I want to make here is interactions. What makes online video games so fun and so great to play is the interactions. You are fighting against another person, and your characters are interacting until one of you wins and one of you loses. If you are a Junkrat and you are fighting against a soldier, you are directly interacting. You're cognizant of the other person's abilities, how they may use those abilities, and how you can mitigate that. There's interactable stuff going on. If you're against the Widowmaker, there is no interaction there. That Widowmaker may as well be playing a single-player game, because all they're doing is looking and shooting heads. Which, it's difficult. I'm not saying it's not difficult to be good, but it's not worth it. Like, why should this one person be allowed to just be playing this single-player game where they just get to click on heads, and they don't have to know anyone else's abilities, for the most part? They don't have to know, like, yes, okay, so Junkrat's gonna try and place his trap there, or he's gonna try and throw his concussion mine there, so I need to move this way, and then try to... They just need to shoot. That's it. So it removes the entire fun part of the game. The, like, actual person v person challenge is gone. There's no interaction. It's just this person has decided that they want to play a single-player game, and you are on the receiving end of that. Or this person has decided that they are playing a character that they suck at, and you are on the receiving end of that on their team. I just feel that it's almost expected these days to have some kind of sniper character in these hero-based shooters, in like most team-based shooters. And I think that's so wrong. I feel like every single game that has a character like that would be better if they weren't there. And let me just tell you my credentials about this whole thing. I have over 1,000 hours played in just Sniper in TF2. Just Sniper. Nothing else. So I'm coming from a point of, I'm the asshole. I'm that guy who goes into a casual match and forces the enemy team to play around me because I can click on heads. And at some point I realized that it's not fair. It's not fun. And I'm not even having fun anymore because I'm not interacting with anything. I'm just playing a single-player game that just happens to have people in it. And then I'll come to the one game that I'm going to bring up that I think it does it well. And that's Halo. So in Halo, there are sniper rifles, but they're special weapons. You pick them up, there's only like 1 or 2 on a map, and they only respawn at a timed interval, and they have very little ammo, which I think is the way to do it. If you're gonna have some kind of sniper in a game, it needs to be a very limited resource, and it needs to be scarce and difficult to get. It shouldn't just be available to one class always. It doesn't make sense from a fairness or a gameplay standpoint. Anyway, I'm gonna stop ranting about this. I don't expect this to ever change, but I just wish games focused more on interactions and less on snipers. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, and maybe if there's something glaringly obvious that I'm missing about what might make it fun, like an epiphany that, oh, wait, it is actually fun if you just think about it this way. If you have any of those epiphanies, please do tell me in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.